Hello Power Rangers Lightning Collection fans, and welcome to the next chapter of the Lightning Library, the series where we take an in-depth look at every entry in the Lightning Collection and talk about its history, and of course then take a look at the entry itself. Today we are going to be taking a look at the very first Hasbro Pulse exclusive set for the Lightning Collection, which was released during the summer of 2020, the Putty Patroller 2-pack. Now this is a special release for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's a 2-pack that retails for $10 cheaper than a normal 2-pack. It also includes a figure that was re-released from a figure that came out previously in 2019, and it does include kind of hints towards future figures to come that ended up coming out later in the year. And it's just kind of special for all these different reasons. Of course, the biggest draw for the set is the fact that it is perfect for army building. So if you want more putties in your collection, you want to have a little army to fight your rangers, this is a perfect set for that, because you're not getting Fighting Spirit Green like you did the first time we got a putty. It's just 2 putties, and you can buy as many of the packs as you want to include, increase that army size. But of course, first let's take a look at the box, which uses the kind of $30 deluxe figure sized package box that we have gotten with like the monsters, Zordon and Alpha. SPD Omega used this box style as well. So there is no window into the inside of this box. We just have the same artwork that was on the Fighting Spirit Green putty set from Tom Whalen, but the side profile does have new Tom Whalen artwork that has, to this day, as of the time of this video, not been released in its full form yet. So this is the only way we can see it here, and it looks really cool. This is basically if, a standalone putty got released, it would look like this on the side artwork, so that's pretty neat. Also, some interesting thing to note is that this just says Putty Patrollers down there. It does not say Mighty Morphin Putty Patrollers, as most Lightning Collection releases usually would. And then, of course, on the back, we have the renders here, which I have tried to recreate here on the best that I can with the figure poses. And it's interesting because the hands that they use, I think this might be a mirrored picture, because they, like, the grip hand, the kind of claw hand here, is actually the left hand that the figures come with, and they show it here as the right hand. So, and there is no right hand of that in this set, so I don't really know what they were doing with that. Yeah, they're both left-handed, so interesting. Something I just kind of noticed while posing these figures for the first time, I think, so. But before we get into the kind of figures in detail, let's of course go over the history of this set. In the spring of 2020, Hasbro started a new way to interact with their customers in the form of Fan First Fridays. These events would be held in the form of either social media posts or live streams with members of the product teams to discuss new items, hold interviews, or any other things. Each week would focus on a certain brand, and after a few months into this new venture, Power Rangers would finally get their first one on Friday, May 15th, 2020. For this first one, there was no livestream event, as common practice with the more recent ones. Instead, 4 Lightning Collection items were shown off at this event via Twitter posts and a pre-recorded video on Hasbro Pulse with links to pre-order. The first one of the reveals for this day was the first Hasbro Pulse exclusive in 2020, the Putty Patroller 2-pack. This was the first new reveal in a good amount of time to not have leaked prior to the event at all, and was genuinely a surprise release. A putty had already been released in 2019 as part of a 2-pack with the Fighting Spirit Green Ranger, but at the time, many fans who wanted to army build the figure were left to either buy one extra on eBay or have multiples of the 2-pack and then have a bunch of extra Fighting Spirit Greens on the side. This 2-pack would change that. 2 of the same figure, intended for army building, and also for $10 cheaper than a normal 2-pack. These figures came with essentially the same things that the original release had, but with a new chest explosion effect piece and different paint patterns on their chests. When it was announced, the set was slated to release in August, but it would end up releasing early in July in Malaysia at the same store that Dinos Under White and SPD Omega came out early at. The set released in the UK by the end of July, and after a few delays from Pulse in the US, it would be released in the country within the middle of August. Alright, so let's go ahead and of course take a look at the putties that you get in the set themselves. So virtually they are the same exact figure that came out during the original release back in 2019. However, they did change a couple of things that I think are pretty neat. First of all, we'll start with the effect piece, or at least this one. So this one is not new. It is an effect piece that we got with the original release of the putty in 2019. However, there it was blue, and now it's this orange color. So this is the first and only time we've gotten it in that color here, which is pretty neat. I do like that. As for other effect pieces though, this is a brand new effect piece. This yellow chest blast design, like a chest explosion, that is pretty neat. I like this one a lot. It's also the only way you can get it in yellow. But what was really cool, which I didn't even know this until a while after we had already heard the rumors for it, but the inside of it has this circle cut out in there, which obviously pointed to the fact that we were going to be getting Z-Putties in the Lightning Collection, and we did later on in 2020 in Wave 7, which we'll go into more detail when we get to that video in the library series. But there they came out in blue with this effect piece, so this is still the only way you can get it in yellow is with a Putty Patroller 2-pack. Now, just like the original release of the Putty, you get the arm that is like the wrecking ball, and you get the arm that is the like blade, and they are basically interswappable. I mean, you can swap them of course just by taking them off of there, but I mean, there's technically not a perfect like right or left in terms of like what is supposed to be what's hand. They're kind of left ambiguous, so you can kind of mix match, which is neat. Or if you buy multiples of the set, you could have like 2 wrecking ball hands and 2 arm hands, or however you want to do it. But the other swappable hands are just, you get another hand. They both look the same, so like this kind of claw hand and this like kind of closed fist. So nothing super crazy there. We will go ahead and compare it to the original 2019 release. So they are basically the exact same figure. So I'll put the 2019 one in the center so you can see what I'm going to be talking about here. They did change the chest printing. So all 3 of these have a unique chest paint design. So the one from the 2019 release is still exclusive to the 2019 release. It's the only way you can get that chest pattern. And then the 2-pack have these 2 new chest patterns on the sides there. So they are unique. If you bought all of the releases, you have a tiny little army here of 3, which I think is a pretty good size to start. And you get 3 unique pieces because of that. So I really like the attention that Hasbro went to do with that, to actually make it feel like if you bought them again, you were actually still getting something new with the effect pieces and the printing, while still army building. I would have perfectly been fine with just a exact re-release of the middle one here, but I'm happy they didn't do that. And also, if you bought the original 2-pack, you still have some value there with that. So I can definitely appreciate that they did that. And overall, there's really not much to say about this 2-pack in general. I mean, the Putty is kind of the most bland figure in the Lightning Collection, as it should be. They're just gray bodysuits basically, so you wouldn't expect them to be the most sophisticated figures ever, and they're not. And so, but they're accurate. They're a really good army builder thing to do, especially with the cheaper price and everything like that. And I can't recommend them more. I love that they did this. I hope that they do this again, maybe for Z-Putties or Tangas or something, because those were released single release, so it's easier to army build them, but they were 1 per cases, unfortunately. But since the time of this release, it has popped in and out of stock on Hasbro Pulse a couple of times. I mean, people are still trying to buy it and everything to army build, of course, so it is one that will go out of stock relatively frequently. So if you do want more than one, I would recommend trying to get them as soon as possible, even though Pulse does have a 2 per customer limit on the order, but I do believe that's per order, so you can just place like a bunch of orders and get multiples if you like. I'll go ahead and real quick put the articulation chart up here. It's actually just the articulation chart from the original release, because they are the same thing, so there's not really much point in doing that again, because it's the same body, just different prints. But that's all I have for this chapter of the Lightning Library. Thank you guys for watching this series. As always, let me know down in the comments below, how many of this 2-pack did you purchase? How big is your Putty army? Are you content with just the one? Did you get just 1 2-pack? Or do you have 3 Putties like I do? How did you do it? I'm curious to know. And of course, I'll see you all next time on the next chapter of the Lightning Library, where we take a look at the second Hasbro Pulse exclusive figure from 2020, the Boom Studios Comics Psycho Green.